Cooling system, episode 3. Bugger. Does kind of every time you fill the cooling system up, or every time you seal the cooling system, you introduce a new fault. Now, there's still pressure in this because the engine is stone cold. I can't even fucking undo it. 7 stone bloody weakling. Yes, there's still pressure in it. Right, been out for a drive. That is more pressurised than I would generally expect. Not use the LPG at all, so it's definitely not the LPG that's pressurising the cooling system. There is a coolant hose, and if the diaphragm breaks inside the LPG, then of course it will pressurise the cooling system. It hasn't blown. It hasn't released anything this particular trip. I can see it's probably not far off it though. So see if I can get that in it before I head down to Devon. And then I think it's going to be a heads off job when I get down to Devon, unfortunately. Which is a pain in the balls because I can do without it. Got other things to do. At least you get to see a top end overhaul on a Rover V8 in a Range Rover. How about that? Right, the morning after. So I K-sealed up, and initially, very good, no problems at all. Ran a lot smoother, so I think I have got some issues. K-seal would appear to have worked, although there are a couple of issues. So let's find out how much pressure is still in the systems really. Not as much pressure. So first and foremost, I mean, a lot of this brown gloop was here from the day before. Little bit, tiny bit. It's the level I'm looking for. Yeah, the level's not gone down at all. So I think the K-seal has worked. Now, because I didn't get anywhere near the amount of whiffage on the journey, because obviously when that thing vents, when it overflows because of the excess pressure, then it you smell it. It just stinks inside the car. Right. So been into town and back, ran it on petrol. To my mind, it does seem excessively pressurised. Every now and then I get a whiff, just a little whiff, and you can see around the neck of the bottle there, around the seal. There's just a little bit of moisture. So because the fluid level's probably correct, it's just probably blowing off a little bit of steam. What I'll do is I'm not going to touch anything. I'm going to let it cool down, and if there's any pressure whatsoever in here, we've got excess pressurisation. And it's going to need something doing with it. Oh, the other news is the LPG stopped working for some reason. I've got to look into why that has happened. But that shouldn't be too much aggravation. I'll soon sort that out. But yeah, it looks like we will be taking the heads off this, which is a ball's ache, isn't it? Quite a lot of stuff to get down to the heads. The heads are down here somewhere. But there is bags of it. D-Day. It's coming apart. What I'll start by doing is I'm going to... No pressure in there, but it has pissed out again, you see. It had a chronic misfire as well this morning when I first started it up. So I'm going to I'll start with a compression check, because that's going to be the you know, it'd be a good baseline to set just to check the compressions. Then I'm going to get it stripped down and get the heads off. It's going to be quite an involved job. We'll see. First, let's get this cooling system drained down. So these things are rather marvellous. This is a Pella 6000 oil extractor, but it's also very good for getting coolant out. I'm not necessarily going to keep this coolant, but I do want to get it out of the car. And all you do is you create a vacuum. Whoops. Create a vacuum, and it sucks the coolant out of the car. It's coming at a fair old pace. So I'll leave that for a couple of minutes. That will fill up. And then we'll start stripping some of the other bits and bobs. I'm probably going to end up taking the radiator out. There's only a couple of bolts. Let's get the air filter and stuff like that off. Right, time lapse time. Right, plugs are all out. Yeah, so we've got 2, 4, 6 and 8, 7, 5, 3 and 1. These plugs have been in here for 1,000 years. Some of them have got quite high carbon build-ups. That one is quite nasty. I'll change these things. These are these Bosch Super 4s. I put them in. Please insert date here. They've been in an awfully long time. I'll let you know how many miles those have done. But I'm pretty impressed with them. They have run nicely. So now I'm going to do a compression test. I've got a compression tester. All I really need to do is just check the pressure on each of the cylinders, record it, and then I can make a judgment. Well, the heads are going to come off anyway because I know that the head gasket has blown. I don't need to go into any more detail on that. Oh, I didn't film the block test, by the way. It came out green quite quickly, and there's a lot of bubbles in the expansion tank as well. So what I'm surprised about is one of these plugs. I suppose that one is quite clean. What you're really looking for is a plug that's been water blasted. So clearly not that one, because that one's all carboned up. That one's not in bad shape. But again, the electrodes are starting to wear quite thin on that. That one's got a lot of carbon on it. See there? That one is looking healthy. That one is looking relatively healthy. That one's quite rich. I did run it on petrol for about 50-60 miles yesterday, but that one there is my suspect. If I can get the camera to move. That one there is my suspect. So that's number 7. It's looking quite clean compared to the others. In fact, that one there is looking quite clean as well. Because basically what happens is when you get a head gasket leak, it jettisons water in a fair rate of knots and tends to pressure wash the spark plugs. But I think because this only really happened last week, it's not had sufficient opportunity yet to properly clean those plugs out. Right, let's get on with a compression test now. So, even bank, right hand bank I guess if you're sitting in the car, the offside bank, I get it all in the region of 160 psi. Left hand bank I cannot get the pressure gauge to see on cylinder number 1. This is the plug that shat itself. If you remember, well, if you look back through my YouTube channel, you'll find a what the fuck was that video, and a plug shot out of the number 1 cylinder. But I think it's damaged the thread, and I don't think that the thread on the adapter is quite long enough. It needs to be double the length because the plug seats now, but I can't get the adapter in. So when this head comes on, I'm going to have to look at that thread and see what I do with that. However, on this side you can see that the readings are quite a lot lower. So normally what I would do is I'd look at 10% of the highest. So if we look at the highest being 160, then the lowest being 140, so we've got a 20 psi difference, which is more than 10%. So we've definitely got a problem on this bank, and I suspect this is this bank that the head gasket is started to blow on, but only recently. So disconnect the battery now. Let's get this thing pulled apart. Here's the 2 fuel lines. All I really do is just get these 2 fellas out the way, the other side of the aircon pipes, and then cover them up and keep them out of the way. There they are, they can sit up there, they're out of the way. Right up there. The next thing I'm going to need to do after I've secured these fuel lines is get the loom out for the injectors. Now these little clips, they just pull off ever so easily. I've got no desire to, I say they pull off really easily, yeah they do. These have never been off. Oh, fuck you. Yeah, I don't think these have ever been off. And there's that one there which is broken, we know that. And that's just a case of feeling them through. So now the trumpet base is off, which is the reason I took the trumpet base off. It's actually easy just to pull the loom up this gap here. You don't have to disturb the fuel rail or any of the seals. Oh, I've not done an RF joke yet, have I? I don't know if you can even see any of this. Pretty futile if you couldn't, wouldn't it? That's been the most futile gesture I've done today. Apart from fucking doing this rather than paid work, but I need my car. Right, that can come right out through there. So that's one bank of injectors and their associated wiring out of the way. You can go up there. I'll do the other bank as well. I don't know if you saw any of that. Now the loom is attached to the top of this manifold here. I can get that one out, and then I'm going to start undoing the 12 bolts that secure the inlet manifold. And I'll take the inlet manifold off, complete with its fuel rail. And then we're getting close. So let me gavelled on enough. Let me go back to time lapse. More fun. Right, we're having a bit of a sweary moment. The rocker covers on this are fitted with these kind of 12 point, and I think they're 8mm. So the only socket I've got is that one, which fits it beautifully, but it's too fat to go down these two on the inside. Why the fuck would you put those on there? Oh, it's not like it needs to be fucking tamper-proof, is it? There we are, you didn't miss the sweary moment. You've got the sweary moment. Absolutely fucking got it. Full ball. Twatting thing. So I have to go and get the fucking sockets now. Well, my missus said to me, I thought you had every tool to do everything. Yes. Apart from these. Yeah. That size. Oh, what a ball's ache. I hate it. Really do. And the reason I wanted to get this rocker cover off, apart from the fact the head gaskets are coming out, is that the rocker cover's trapping the gasket for the rocker cover is trapping the inlet manifold in. So I just go and get a socket now. Arslington, fuck all berries. Right, we got over the 12-point star issue. Because I was trying to find a 12-point fucking socket, 8mm, 12-point star socket, and on a 1/4-inch drive, and you know it seems to be a special order. And I remembered my spanners, my ancient Halford spanners are 12-point, and these things are fiendishly tight. But now I've got it, so it does turn. Both of these now turn. I think I'll be able to use the other socket, which sort of fitted, but wasn't a good fit, and whiz those out. Suffice to say, I'm not putting these fucking things back in again. Rocker cover off. Oh, it's coming off quite nicely. I think it's the first time I've been in here. Oh look, there's a crosshead screw holding the dipstick. Crosshead screw holding the dipstick tube onto the rocker cover. Just undo that fucker. I can come right out. And then this fucker. Oh, that's nice and clean, isn't it? Come on, you bastard! Come out! That's the gasket's caught. As clean as you're likely to see a Rover V8 engine, really, isn't it? Take the old gasket off, I can go in the rubbish. Right, that's that one. Now I should be able to now lift this, there we are, this comes out. There we are. A little bit of fuel dribbling out the back of the fuel rail there. Right, let's fucking gab in on, let's get on. Right, go back into time-lapse mode again. Let's have this head off now. It should actually lift at this point. There we are, it lifted. How about that? That's a piece of piston, wasn't it? Right, let's just, because these things are on tin gaskets, so they do more often than not just come off. Oh look, we found an earth on the back of the head there. That's useful, isn't it? Quite why you got an earth there for that, I don't know. It's not even particularly tight. The waterway's completely bunged up on that back cylinder. Completely. Not slightly, like this one over here. You can't see that one. I'll show you in a minute. It's just dripping a bit of water onto the floor, but I've got the drip tray underneath. Let's put that back on there. I shall remove the head and then we'll look at the block and then we'll go in and inspect the head. Let me just go and take this head away. Right, so that's the head. Any obvious signs of this gasket blowing? Yes, over here. Let me get the torch. This is all bunged up as well here, and it's blown here as well. You can see it's blown there. No, don't run towards the light. Right, okay, what can I see here? Right, I can see that fire ring there is compressed badly. So that will have blown into the water jacket there. And also at the back, I thought I saw, yes, again, the fire ring's compressed at the back here and has gone into the waterway. So I think both of these two are not looking great. Now, this gasket may well have blown up here as well, which would explain the lower compression, that marking there. Videos. Now, yes. I will take the valley gasket out in a minute. I want to do the other head first of all. But let's have this head gasket away. Now, when you're pulling these things off, beware, they are razor fucking sharp. So you really don't want to be running your fingers up and down the edges of this. That's definitely blown on number 2. You can see that. You can see where it's blown. It's caused combustion outside of the fire ring. Okay. It's also started to blow on number 3. At the top there, you can see where the black mark is on the block. If I look at the underside of the gasket, you can see those 2 marks correspond exactly with that head gasket failure. It's strange how that's all happened kind of, I suppose once they start to go, they go. Right, now, I need to have a bit of a clean up around here, but let's go and look at the head first of all after it. Right, in here, on this end bolt down here in this area, that's traditionally where you get a lot of gloop. Anywhere along this edge here, that's going to be pointing downwards, so gravity will feed gloop into that area. But these 2 bolts at the back, and that is the front one there, these 2 bolts at either end, really short, and they sit right down in all that gloop and shit. On a really bad engine where you've got epic Black Death, and this has got very, very, very lightweight Black Death. A Black Death is these kind of carbon oil deposits, and it is, let's get a little screwdriver or a blade or something. Honestly, we're failing today miserably. No, this fucking thing will do. It's actually quite tough, this stuff, and it comes out and it's pretty tough. It's not like oil, it's just basically just carbon deposits. Now, on a bad engine, you will find the whole fucking thing will be absolutely caked to this shit. This stuff, I can move it. So I shall just wash the head down in the parts washer and that'll be okay. Now, other thing that I want to look for, oh, let's look at the face of the gasket, face of the head. So I'm going to kind of just temp fake now. This thing's going to tip oil everywhere, but never mind. Move tin screws out of the way. Let's tip up. Right, now, on this face here, so we can see a blow there. That will be on number 1 cylinder. And then we can see the blow there on number 5. And less of a blow on the head side than there was on the block side. But it's actually looking pretty good in here. I think that's... Got the other head off. Yay. Yeah, these when you're doing the offside head, driver's side head, so the even number cylinders 2, 4, 6, 8. These back bolts here, They're a bastard to get to. Because they're tucked right up underneath the bulkhead. Let me just clean the lens on my camera because it's having a problem auto-focusing at the moment. That's better. Right, okay, I'll edit that bit out. Yeah, the issue you've got is the bolts right at the back end here. They're underneath all the aircon pipes, the bloody transmission fluid. The top tip for today is to undo the two fixings up on the top of the bulkhead that hold the aircon pipes tight to the bulkhead. With those undone, I was able to move the aircon pump out of the way. Right, so first of all, gasket, where are we? Pretty sure it's original. I've never seen one with the word L Rover written on it before. It has started to corrode around the waterways at the front and back, but not gone as far as the firing. So it's not gone as far as the firing on front or back. There's no signs of any stains or staining around the gasket, front or back. And again, I'm turning this thing very fucking carefully because these things are razor sharp. Yeah, all in very good order, really. That gasket, that had not blown, but probably wasn't long, really, before it was going to think about it. You can see some of that corrosion there is getting in very, very close to the firing. We look at the block face. It kind of matches, really, what we've seen on the gasket. There's no sign anywhere of anything blown at all along the entire length of the head face, so that's good. Compared with this side, where we can see very, very clearly it has blown. So let's have a quick look underneath the cylinder head now. There's one thing I did observe on the cylinder head while I was wrestling with the fucking thing. I think one of these springs is broken on the front here. I might have to get this spring, number 1 spring. So it's exhaust spring on cylinder number 2. It just looks odd. It's kind of bowing out towards the right hand side. I don't know if you can see that. The rest of the springs are very, very, very upright. But that one, it could just be the way it's settled, because the springs do rotate as the valve open and close. I'll give these things a good clean, and then I'll do the petrol test, where I have the head inverted and level when I fill the combustion chambers up with petrol. Just really to test, see how they're getting on. On the head face on this one, yeah, we're not really seeing any problems, are we? Some of this gloop over here is because when I went to lift the fucking head off, there was a whole load of shit bolted onto the back end of it for some reason. Yeah, all looks very clean and tidy and presentable in here. So both heads off, both heads happy with, both heads probably just need a light clean. I'm going to go straight back on. I'm not even sure I'm going to skim them. I will double check. Let me remove this fucking thing before I slice myself open on it. I mean, it looks fairly innocuous, but honestly, if you ever had a paper cut, one of these is about 1 billion times worse. When it comes to rocker gear, by the way, I did mark the rocker gear, so I put a red flag on the front of the left-hand rocker gear, which I also put on the cylinder head, just to remind me. But what I tend to do is keep the rocker gear in its associated rocker cover. Interestingly, I've got one rocker cover that's silicon, and that one was cork. Not me. Pretty sure it wasn't me. Pretty sure. Right, let's have a look at the camshaft now. So, yeah, I think the camshaft's worn. I think it's pretty much reached the end of its life, that camshaft. What I'm basically looking at here, let me put the light on the camera rather than using this fucking yellow bastard crappy fucking light. Now, so what I'm really looking at is there's a lobe there, and if I run my finger along that lobe, you can see there's a wear mark across it. And I think that the tip of the lobe has kind of it's gone through. There's another one there that's on its side, and again you can see if I get my finger in there and just wipe across it, it's not oil, it's where the hardening's gone through. So I think this thing would benefit from a new camshaft. There's one that spectacularly demonstrates the issue. You can see there, if this one here, if I rotate that backwards and forwards, I'm just rotating the camera backwards and forwards, you can see that the tip of the lobe, which is on the right hand side there, has worn down, and the one next to it as well. So Yeah, I think at 194,000 miles, I'm going to treat this car to a new camshaft and set of followers, which does mean that the water pump needs to come off, which isn't a huge issue because it's leaking anyway. I think what's been happening is the water pump gasket is leaking underneath here, which is why the belt squeals. All that shit up there is just me when I was tipping it out. Yes. So I think I've got a photograph somewhere of one of these where the liner has slipped, and it was on my last car. You can see the line of the liner just around here. Let me get a razor blade and tidy that face up there. Right, let's scrape that a bit cleaner. Now you can see the edge of the liner, and it goes round there. Quite a big old thing, really. This is going to be on a standard bore still. I will double check it. I've cleaned up a lot of the sloop and where the head gasket's blown. What I'm going to need to do really is to do a level check to check where it has blown the two ends into the water jacket and the tops of these two cylinders here. I'm going to have to check that that is still level before I start pissing around doing too much work with it. Been cleaning the shit out of everything. I thought I'm not going to bother too much with the alternator, but I thought I would just quickly check the state of the brushes. And there's plenty of meat on them. There's no real issue there. What is an issue, and this is a Denso blah 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 UK distributor. Distributor. What the fuck are you talking about? Basically, the contact rings on these are on the vertical post, and the top contact ring is utterly shagged out. So when this alternator starts to piss me around, it's just going to be a scrapyard job. I'm just going to have to go and get another one. So there's plenty of life in the brushes, but the brushes seem to have been wearing the contact ring. Or the contact ring is just cheap, nasty. Bottom contact ring is fine. Top contact ring, you can see you see this. See the lines going around it. That's the contact ring. So the brush just contacts onto the contact ring. Top one worn out. Not a huge amount I can do about that really, just shoddy really. I'll look up when. Right, let's get this hairy bastard out. Might need a bit of light under here. Mr. Lights. There we go. Right, first thing I'm going to do is get these hydraulic tappets out. This engine's quite clean, so I should just be able to lift the fuckers out. In case you put your finger underneath it and then lifting it up. And they do, they come straight out. Look at that. Sometimes on engines with extreme black death, these things have to be levered out. I have in the past used an Allen key just to lever, because the Allen key's got a right angled end on it, just to lever them up. But invariably, I sneeze and the Allen key ends in the sump, and I'm running out of Allen keys because they're all in sumps on Rover V8s. Yeah, joking. It's a false economy to keep these things, by the way. 194,000 miles. I think they've had a very useful life. If you were going to keep them, or if you were going to remove the camshaft and reinstall it, you want to make sure that each of these hydraulic tappets was reinstalled into exactly the hole it came from, because there's a wear pattern that marries the camshaft and the hydraulic tappet. Just try and find something to get a purchase on, that'll do. And down he comes. I'll have to wind the crank back a tiny bit just to get him back to top dead centre, because if I leave everything at top dead centre, then there's not going to be an issue, is there? Right, now that's off. I'll take the bolt out the end of the camshaft. We'll take the gear. The fucking camshaft's going to come up with all its fucking bolts and drive gear and everything. Right, a couple more bolts, and the radiator can come out. There's a couple of little, once all the hoses and pipes and things off, there is literally just 2 captive plates which are held up with nuts and bolts at the top of the radiator, goes through the front slam panel. You can't see, and I'm not going to touch my camera because I am utterly minging it at the moment. Look like that. And it goes through the front panel, and then there's a little grommet that goes into the radiator. One of them. Put that nut and bolt back on there. It's one of my things, is either organising nuts and bolts or making sure I put the nut and bolt back in its hole from whence it come. And I think also, I suppose, if you're organised with your nuts and bolts, you will know when something's gone back together again, missing a bolt, because you've got a bolt left over. Right, radiator's now free. Let's put that nut and bolt back in there. Right, so wiring's all over the top of the fucking engine. Really don't want the wiring getting oily. Oil pump can come back down here. Oil pump, power steering pump, I mean. Right, this is going to fucking sloop a whole load of slooping sloop. Ah, quite a lot of fluid leaking onto the floor down here. Right, let's lift the radiator up and tip this coolant out. It's in it. It's amazing how much is in it, really, considering I've bloody sucked this thing absolutely fucking bone dry. Right. There's a summer's worth of gloop in the back of the radiator. I'll put him over here. I'm going to lay him on his back. Right, I don't like taking this front panel off because it reminds me I need new headlight boxes. 2 bolts, looks like there's a nut bolt and a nut. There's 2 bolts, bracket on each side, and that'll allow me to take the entire rad off its mounts and swing it out of the way in order to get the camshaft out, I think. Let me get these bolts undone. That looks like it's captive, it isn't though. Right, let's get these bolts undone. I did actually paint this last summer. Really ought to get some decent rust treatment in there, hadn't I? And these pipes as well, they need treating. This is the automatic gearbox crawler. And if you find your automatic gearbox is using fluid and you find there's a big stain on the front of your grill here or here, it's because this is all rotted out. And they do! Right, let's get those out and then I'll come back to you. Well, that was 1,000 fucking laughs. Right, first of all, the horns need to come out in order to get the bolts for the aircon rad out. Secondly, my headlight boxes, there's fucking nothing anymore. It's connecting that top. And this one here, this is even more fun. I need new headlight box. I need new inner wings. I know it. Fucking thing. Right, okay, so we've got this thing free. So without disconnecting it or puncturing it, I want to lift it up and then gently maneuver. Come on, you fucker. Don't fuck me around. Camshaft out. And it's out. That's only taken 2 weeks, isn't it? Right, here you can see the wear on the lobe. It's not bad. I mean, considering some people tell you these things last 70,000 miles and you're pointless ever using one beyond that. That lobe there looks particularly flat. That one there. I think some of these lobes have worn down quite a lot. So it's not before time. The camshaft is out. Whoop, whoop. Right, I need to get ready now. Now I've got that out, I'm going to see my beautiful missus. And I'm going to see the machine shop. And also see if I can get those heads skimmed. Oh dear, oh dear. Right. That's it all out then. Now what are these bearings actually like? They're not bad, they're not down to the copper. Let me get my torch. I've got a little torch. I've been out and bought a little torch. Look at this little fucker. Clean hands. This thing's 240 lumens. I know that's not a lot in the world of lumens, but it does allow me to do this. And I'm going to say that that bearing is fucking beautiful. Now, that's just oil on that one there. Oil on that one there. Yeah, those bearings are more than fit. And underneath there you can see the crankshaft down at the bottom. Yeah, happy. Right, this thing can start going back together now.